Something just happened that's going to impact the future of AI, the development of AI infrastructure, your job, your personal private information. It's pretty unprecedented, and we're going to talk about it today. What happened? I'm glad you asked. OpenAI, the founder, the maker, the creator of ChatGPT, proposed handing the US government a 5% stake in their company. But why would they do this? Because as you know, governments love power. They love control. Why would OpenAI give up this portion of control to US government? Why would they do that? And at the same time, you've got the founder and CEO of Anthropic, Dario Amodei, saying, they created Claude. They're one of the largest, fastest growing LLMs in the world. He's saying, shut us down. We need to be regulated. We're too dangerous. You also, at the same time, this past week, have Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir, crashing out on national television saying, we can't trust these big tech oligarchs. We cannot trust these big AI guys. Their token models are a complete disaster. What is going on? And why would these guys be asking for the government to be so heavily involved in their industry? Well, today we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the insidious nature of what they are doing, because it's not as obvious as take a little bit of control. There's something going on behind the scenes that most people don't know about. I don't think many people are talking about. And I want to talk about it today because I've got a platform, because you keep showing up, because 6 days a week, recording fresh videos on how AI is impacting your world. More specifically, your ability to create any sort of wealth and freedom in this new world. The ability to have a job in the AI world. I think it's very, very important. And frankly, most people don't talk about it. I want to talk about it. That's why we're here. Thanks for subbing and watching on the channel. So let's get into what happened here. So basically, OpenAI proposed giving the US government a 5% stake as a potential way to avoid misuse of advanced models. And this is timely because just this past week, the US government forced Claude's new model, Fable, to shut down. They had concerns about bioterrorism and cyber terrorism and terrorism in particular. And it was so powerful, it was so dangerous, the government went in and told Anthropic, you got to shut down Fable. It's too dangerous. Then it went up again for a few days, and then it went back down, and I've been trying to access Fable. I don't have it. Some people say they do. I just can't seem to do it, and I'm paying Claude a decent amount of cash. I wish I could access it. In any event, this is kind of coming right off the tails of that. And so what OpenAI proposed is that major AI tech firms, major AI firms, give some stake to Washington. Give the people some control and ownership in these models. And just a quick side note, we'll talk about this a little bit more. I love that these big companies are going public with IPOs. I think it's great. I want to have a piece of it. I want to have a piece of ownership in these big companies. I don't know about you. We covered this a few days ago. SpaceX. Have you bought into SpaceX yet? I'm feeling like I still want to wait for it to crash out a little bit. It was super hot at first, but I don't know. If you've got into SpaceX, you can put your comments below. I'd like to hear from you. Anyway, what else is going on here? Well, as you know, there's a growing backlash against AI over the potential economic turmoil and job loss. And again, we've been covering this at length. Lots of companies laying off tons and tons of people. In fact, during May, AI was credited with 40% of the job loss. 40% of all jobs that were let go in May were directly blamed on AI, which is pretty nuts. In addition to that, we've seen 29 months in a row, white-collar jobs have contracted. The amount of white-collar jobs month over month over month for the last 29 months have been decreasing. And in fact, we covered that in a video this past week. I'll post a link to the video here if you want to know more about what's happening with this white-collar job apocalypse, you might say. I mean, the whole model of go to college, get a degree, go work on a computer is completely broken. It doesn't work anymore. And again, this is one of the reasons why I'm a big proponent, big preacher of creating a side hustle, creating an additional income stream. I think it's important. It's worked out for me pretty decently. Anyway, I think that's a good thing to do. The other major factor here is putting regulation in place prior to the public offering. Again, we talked about the IPO that's imminent. And what smart investors don't like is uncertainty. They don't like uncertainty, and getting some regulation and adoption in place is going to be very valuable for companies like OpenAI prior to the looming IPO. This IPO is going to be happening pretty soon, and having some government regulation in place will help reduce the amount of anxiety that and angst and uncertainty in what's going to happen with regulation, because and I do think it makes sense. Take a little piece, take 5%, and that pales in comparison to what people like Bernie Sanders are proposing, where he wants the U.S. government to take a 50% stake in OpenAI, which, in my opinion, is terrifying. That the U.S. government would have 50% control. Like, I don't know if you clearly understand this, but if you own 50% of a company, that gives you immense power in the direction of a company and the way that it handles personal information, knowledge. I don't know if you guys remember that thing, COVID-19, that happened, but the amount of misinformation, privacy infringement, I will not forget it. I know a lot of people forget because we have the minds of peanuts, but that was a very upsetting time for me. I've talked about that in the past. I'm not going to go into too much detail. But I think it's good that we can have discussions and be clear, and I think that it's good to have access to information. And one of the things that happened during the pandemic was information was essentially shut down, and from certain people for certain reasons, and that's really upsetting to me. I don't want to get too heated. Regardless, CEO Sam Altman has had talks with Trump, Howard Lutnick, Scott Bessent, Bernie Sanders, all in recent weeks about how can we make this work? How can we give you some control over OpenAI? And while nothing's locked in, I think it's probably imminent. But here's the thing, guys. There is a dark, insidious type of thing that's happening here. And I think it's important that we at least put it out there. And you could disagree, that's fine. You can put it in the comments below. I'd like to hear from you. But there is something insidious happening. Okay, there are a couple fears. Oh, and just a quick side note, Anthropic has not been involved in the talks. They are being very loud about government regulation, but they haven't jumped in with, hey, let's talk about giving Washington 5% stake. They haven't done that. But there are a couple fears here. And, Alex Karp from Palantir this past week went on public television, expressed some major concerns on CNBC that these huge AI companies, he called out Anthropic and OpenAI by name. He said these companies are inserting their data collecting tentacles into every enterprise and every organization across the US, and they're selling tokens. They're selling you tokens, they're increasing the cost of tokens, and then they're collecting your data. And he was not happy about it. If you're not sure about who Alex Karp is, he's the CEO of Palantir, which is a huge national defense contractor. You can talk about drones and anti-missile connectivity and missile tech, it's cybersecurity, like cyber threats. Like, these guys are a big deal. And in any event, he was crashing out over this token model. And when you think about it, this kind of makes sense why you would want regulation. OpenAI, Anthropic will make a deal with the government. The government has some control. Now you can go ahead and infuse our AI models into your entire organization. Well, what does that mean? Well, now you can extract infinite amounts of data and personal information and, know about all the security weaknesses and security threats. Like, that is an immense amount of information that you have access to because you're partners. You're partners with the government, okay? So that's one part. The other insidious part here that I think is inevitable and is really concerning to me is the regulatory shutdown and monopolization of AI. Crush the competition. How are you going to build? How are you going to develop a new frontier model? How are you going to open source and build out even your own private AI server at your own home if the US government says you can't, because we are regulating, and any type of AI that you push out needs to come through us first. It's too dangerous. We will protect you. And that's, I believe that is what Dario Modi over Anthropic wants. He wants the US government to shut down all his competitors, to put down regulation that he helps devise, that he's involved with, and that he knows that his company can comply with. But if you want to innovate and build your own LLM and build it, you're not going to be able to, because the US government has a stake in these companies and they're shutting it down. So in any event, I think that's a big concern that also slows us down. It challenges our ability to compete with China and their models. So it's a really interesting, fascinating time. I wanted to cover this topic about what OpenAI is proposing because I think it's pretty new, it's pretty big, and it could certainly change its trajectory of the way that we operate and interact with AI and work in the future. If you like the video, if you have some additional thoughts, put them in the comments below. I've pinned your comments in the past. I will pin them in the future. If you bring some heat to the conversation, this is how we learn. It's how we get better as a community. And then lastly, if you like today's video, check out yesterday's video where we talk about another big time layoff over at Microsoft, particularly in a surprising wing of the company. Go check that out here, and I'll see you there. Peace.